Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking Wednesday morning. You know, I can relate to our next guest in a couple of different ways. I don't want to mislead anybody, but I have a kind of a funky way of telling you something. Can you imagine being married like for a second time and then telling your new spouse, you know, I sort of kind of still love my first wife or husband, right? Can you imagine doing that? Oh gosh, that would not go over well.
Yeah.
So I don't want Ocala to think that I don't love you. I do love Ocala. But I've always loved New York. New York is my first love because I grew up in New York. So
yes.
it's just it's not like two spouses. You can love two cities. Nobody gets mad at you, right?
Exactly.
And I can remember the move. And, of course, it just was like, oh, man, do I want to do this? Yeah, it was a good thing. It was a bad thing. You know, you miss it, right? Mm-hmm. So in the story, the character moves. And they don't move far. They move to Jersey. But
yeah.
But still, they move.
But it's a lifestyle change.
The other thing I can relate to with our next guest is I used to work at a radio station that actually had two stations. And it was two sets of call letters. And I had to go back and forth between the two microphones and be two different people and remember the two different sets of call letters. So it got so confusing because the owner of the station wanted me to have a different name on the other station. And eventually I said, no, I can't remember who I am. I'm going back and forth. So our next guest has two names.
Yes,
and she has a story about, you know, leaving New York. Of course, I didn't live on the Upper West Side. I wasn't quite that
really
affluent. But
in real life.
Anyway, Susannah Marren has been with us before, but she was with us as Susan Shapiro Barash. And she, I hope I'm saying her names right, names plural.
Yes.
She is a best-selling nonfiction author. This book, however, is fiction. It's called Between the Tides, and I'm wondering if it was fun. It's a fictional novel with insight into the lives of women, their challenges, their triumphs, and their inner yearnings. And Susannah is on the phone now. Susannah, not Susan, right?
Yes.
Susannah is on the phone.
Yes.
All right. This is confusing because you're two different people.
I'm Susannah right now.
Yes.
At the moment.
Right
for
now.
This interview.
Right. Well, good morning.
Kind of like you were on that radio show.
I know. It's crazy though. Good morning, Susannah.
It's interesting. Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Now let me tell you. Or maybe I should just ask you. Would it be impossible for your fans to accept you as the same author, or I mean?
Oh no, that's not why this was done. This was, you know, it's interesting because I've always loved nonfiction and fiction, and I love writing both. And I had sort of put my fiction writing aside because my nonfiction books, one would really lead to the next, and I've been endlessly intrigued by how women feel as wives, mothers, second wives, daughters-in-law, mothers-in-law, you know, in terms of female rivalry, female infidelity, all the topics of my nonfiction research / books. So a few years ago, I've been with St. Martin's Press a long time, and a few years ago I spoke with them about going to, you know, back to fiction, or starting out really writing fiction and putting it ahead of nonfiction. And I said, I'd like a pseudonym, and they said, well, we were going to tell you that. And I think
really?
Yeah, so it differentiates it's a different genre completely. It's still the discipline of writing,
right,
but it's a different genre. And for commercial women's fiction, what we would call a good summer read, I think that the names are almost magical and very melodic. And I have to tell you, picking this name, which I've wanted forever, I told my mother I wanted this name when I was 19.
Which part? The Marren part or the Susannah part?
Susannah Marren, the whole name, because it meant something to me, and I always wanted to write books. You know, I went to college to write books, graduate school, and so I wanted a better name than, I mean, let's be honest, Susan Shapiro. And
what's wrong with Susan Shapiro? What's wrong with that?
It's okay, but it's not melodic. It doesn't have this, like, you don't say...
Because it's yours. Everybody thinks that about their own name.
No, I think your name is pretty. No, I don't think that's true. Sometimes maybe
yeah, but that's
because
mine.
I'm a writer, I notice people's names. And I remember my mother being a little annoyed, and she said, "Hey, look, I thought long and hard about this name. I thought you did." So anyway, but we know our mothers. So I determined two things. I determined that one day I would change it, and then I didn't for a very long time. So anyway, this worked out really well because I think it goes with the book, and it's really great to have a different kind of writing with a different name, sort of like the radio story you were telling a few minutes ago.
And do the reviewers have a heads up? Do they know that you are not?
Well, we waited until pub date. It really was a lot of writers have done this, by the way. If we think of contemporary writers, and I guess the most famous writer who used a pseudonym is Mark Twain. We all know that wasn't
right.
But also, I mean, George Eliot was a woman, and I think that Marianne Evans, I believe, but don't quote me on that. But the point here was that the book went out with just Susannah, Marren, and then once it was released 2 days ago, really yesterday, I went on Good Day New York on Monday morning. And that's where they said, look, she's been on this show. It's a morning show here in the city. She's been on this show many times, as Susan Shapiro Barish, and they actually put up some of my titles. And what I was able to do that was so, for me, curious and rewarding was to take all the research I had done for all my nonfiction and to really incorporate it into creating the characters.
Well, that's 2 steps ahead, because we had that as a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
You had done an excellent job on the book. It's one of those that I couldn't put down, and the characters are just so fascinating, and the scenario that you created is just really amazing to me.
Thank you. That's so rewarding to hear. I really appreciate it. I really love the characters. I don't say that in a way to be self-aggrandizing. I just say that for me, Lainey, it's told in 2 voices, Lainey and Jess, and they're like early 40s, and they have children and husbands, and they rediscover each other in this fictive town in New Jersey. Lainey is a New York lover, but she's mostly a water lover. She's an artist, and she always has water themes, and she loves the Hudson River, which she is lucky enough to look out her window and see in New York. And her husband comes home. I don't want to give away the book, but it's the first chapter, and he says, guess what, everybody, to a wife and 4 children, we're moving. I just got a great job, and we have to move. And where they go is so different for her. It lacks the energy, the diversity of a city, and it really has no water. It's landlocked.
And that's why the cover is so great, too, to me. I love abstract art, but I love the cover because it melds right with the story.
Thank you. It's interesting because, as we know, I've written a few books, and they always send the jacket to the author. And sometimes, you say, and your agent, we say, well, if only it could be this or that, or we like it but we don't love it. And once in a while you love it, but when they sent this, I said, bingo. Isn't it? It's really quite visceral, right?
It is.
It really tells the story, yeah.
Can you see the Hudson from where you are right now?
No, I can't. I actually live next to a school, and I can hear all the kids in the summer session screaming in the yard. It's finally cool in New York. Yesterday was so brutal you wished you were elsewhere. And I don't look at it. But I do, but part of this book takes place it's about the Jersey Shore, and I don't want to give it away, but Jess and Lainey knew each other in Cape May growing up and as teenagers. And Jess was the it girl in Cape May, and Lainey was kind of the dreamy one, but she was popular in her own way. So one of the, aspects of this story is how great it is to reconnect. Lainey gets to this town. She knows no one. She goes swimming. There's your water. And she runs into Jess at the Y, and for her it's quite gratifying. For Jess it's a bit trickier. All the rivalry is churned up, but higher stakes founded
wow.
adult women.
Well, hold on. We got to take a little break, and but you've teased us enough to want us to know more. So that's your job too. That's what we do this for. Susannah Marren on the phone up in New York, right near a school. I can hear the kids in the background too. It sounds like
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
The sound.
Between the Tides is her debut book, and put that in quotes because she's written many other books. This is her first book under the name Susannah Marren. Fiction book, yes. So we'll take a little break, and we will be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, times of clouds and sunshine. There'll be a thunderstorm or two around this afternoon and this evening. Our high today 90 to 94, then partly cloudy later tonight, 74 to 78. For tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun with a couple of afternoon and evening thunderstorms in the area, the high 90 to 94. On Friday, more clouds and sun with a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon, high 87 to 91. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Hi, Danny Werfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
Career Source Citrus Levy Marren brings together business and community partners, economic development leaders, and educational providers to connect employers with qualified, skilled talent and job seekers with employment and career development opportunities. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of each month at 9:30 a.m. to Career Source Citrus Levy Marren and learn how they can help you.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 840-0750. That's 840-0750.
Putting the local back into radio. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. WOCA News. Variety. Information. Now. Keep your arms and legs on the inside at all times.
Your source for the #1 sports weekends. Fox Sports. Only on 96.3 FM, 1370 AM.
This is WOCA, News Talk 1370.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. If I was going to imagine what it's like to do a talk show, this interview is what I would want every time I did an interview. You know why? Because for some reason we're connecting with Susannah Marren, also known as Susan Shapiro, who doesn't like her name, Barash. Is that your married part of your name, Susan? Or Suzanne?
Barish
Sorry.
is not my maiden name, no.
No.
All these names. You know what my daughter said to me recently? She said, when they say what's in a name, they're really talking about you, aren't they?
And that's one of the other things you explore in your book is the mother-daughter relationship.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was really, really interested in Matilda as a character, in writing her. So Lainey has 4 children. She has a 14-year-old son who aligns very much with his dad. And I think that really does play out in families, even if we pretend sometimes it's not like that whole gender identity. And then she has Matilda, who is also an artist, also loves to swim. And poor Matilda really struggles when they get to the town of Elliott. And Lainey and Matilda, they're enmeshed, and they help each other, and maybe they don't. But the interesting thing is that Jess could do much more for Matilda socially in this town. Jess is just so comfortable being popular and knowing who is the right daughter of a, what other girls should be friends with Matilda, while Lainey is really so separate and struggles.
Exactly.
You know what I would have a hard time with it in my own life is finding out that somebody was actually being nice to me in a way to not be nice later on down the road, like to manipulate me. And you've told that part of the story. And again, I don't want to give it away either, but you've told that part of the story, and it makes you feel so bad. It's like, oh gosh, she was befriending her, and now it's not what it looked like.
There's so many layers to female friendships, and that I base on my book Toxic Friends and Tripping the Prom Queen, those two studies. And I think that they both care about each other, and there's betrayal at the heart of it. And as we know, the betrayal is tricky stuff and unexpected on some level, and yet they also help each other. Jess is the one who can help Lainey's art career come back to life. In a small town as opposed to New York City, someone can give you an art show and people will come. And people, you're not competing as much. And so Jess is willing to do that. But Jess is really a tricky person, and Lainey has to figure that out. It takes her a while, but again, I don't want to give the book away.
Do you know what you are? You're like an involuntary psychologist. Like it's like you didn't want to be one, but you are one.
Well, no, it's more that I think as a gender, as a gender professor, and having always tried to investigate, hopefully uncover how women really feel. And one of the parts of this book that matter to me is the question of perfection. So you have a supposedly perfect life, and you are supposedly a perfect wife. You have the children, and you move to a very beautiful town, and everyone drives a nice car, and everyone cares about children's schedules and going to the right parties. But how can you be unhappy within that? Why? And what do you owe yourself? And what do you owe the greater good, which would be, of course, the family, your children, and your husband? Where do we draw the line? And I think women really struggle with that in our society. And then what does female friendship look like? Well, it depends. It's pretty hierarchical.
Oh, wow.
And it's loaded with, some rivalry that's really culturally induced. We're told, if your friend gets a raise, gets married, is pregnant, gets divorced, and this is all her good news, you say to yourself, well, what about me? Why do we think that way? Because we live in a society where limited goods still exists for women.
So you know what you brought to my mind, not to drag a personal story into this, but my mom had a good lady friend up in New York, and when we moved and they moved, they hadn't seen each other for years. And just to cut to the chase of what I want to tell you, they reunited shortly before both of them passed away. And I got this amazing photograph that was, not that I'm an amazing photographer, I just pushed the button at the right time. When they first saw each other for the first time, and Robin knows the photo, they're looking at each other with their mouths wide open with a smile, like there hadn't been any time passed between them at all.
It's wonderful.
And
that's fantastic. And that can happen too. There are always good stories, but that is a great story. But here in this novel, it's not quite as easy as that.
Yeah.
And I do think that it really depends on the person. Maybe your mother and her friend were just disconnected by circumstances. I mean, the minute that Jess, and this is by the beginning of the book, the minute Jess realizes it's Lainey who is walking ahead of her into the Y to swim, she says, wait a second, and she regurgitates everything in her, everything comes up. It depends on who you are. But we do owe ourselves a great deal that we don't always sort through as independent people, not just because we're so involved in motherhood and having friends and having husbands. And so I look at the trick of balancing.
The title is pretty ingenious. When you decided what the title would be, was it like one of those moments like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this, and now it's a perfect title? Between the Tides?
The title really came from some back and forth with my editor and my agent and myself, we went back and forth, and I think that they were so smart to decide this was the title. I really like it, and I think it really depicts the story because, well, because Between the Tides is what it is. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is Between the Tides.
So Robin told me you have an interview like in 2 minutes from now. So let me wrap it up a little bit earlier than we normally would. I have a copy of this book. If you want the one that was sent to us, it's a hardcover copy of Between the Tides by Susannah Marren. And you can have it if you're the first one to call me, 622-9622. The rest of us have to go buy it. So do you have a separate website for this pen name?
I do, and I would love to hear from readers. It's Susannah, SUSANNAH, MARREN.com, and of course the book can be picked up at independent booksellers or on Amazon and other, web shopping.
So, and are you doing book signings? I heard you say, I think it was off there, right?
I am.
Yes.
You went to.
I'm really on tour. I am going all up and down the Northeast coast, and then I'll actually be in Florida in December, speaking and at the Society of the Four Arts in Palm Beach.
Oh, in Palm Beach, okay.
And I think that they're adding a lot daily. Like yesterday they told me there were 2 new speaking gigs. And I'm really trying to connect with women. I would love to do a Skype hour with a women's reading group if they were interested, or I would travel to, almost any city. I really hope to get the word out there about Lainey and Jess and Between the Tides.
Isn't that fun with technology? You can do that kind of thing like the Skype thing or the Google Hangout, whatever.
Oh, it's so clever. Yeah, I'm doing some interviews that way too. Of course, how do people really look on that Skype screen? But we pretend, we get over our vanity for, the idea of getting to connect.
That's kind of funny.
Well, I'm looking forward to your next book because you really do have a great balance between fiction and nonfiction. Very interesting, each facet.
Well, good luck on everything you do, and don't be a stranger. We connected with you somehow. I guess it's just one of those things that happens with guests. Susannah, also known as Susan, thank you for being on the air with us today, and good luck.
Thank you. It's really been a treat. Have a good day.
That was really good. Really good interview. All right, we will take a break. We'll be right back.
Prestige Food Trucks, the world's leading food truck manufacturer, specializing for the startup vendor all the way up to restaurant chains, is a proud sponsor of Food Truck Talks, the weekly show heard every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on The Source, WOCA News Talk, that brings you the inside scoop, ladle, spatula, spoon, fork, and plate from inside of the custom food trucks you see in and around town. Find what makes each food truck unique in its own way, from the food they serve to how it's prepared in their custom manufactured truck. Food Truck Talks, Wednesdays at 9 a.m., sponsored by Prestige Food Trucks.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, times of clouds and sunshine. There'll be a thunderstorm or 2 around this afternoon and this evening. Our high today 90 to 94, then partly cloudy later tonight, 74 to 78. For tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun with a couple of afternoon and evening thunderstorms in the area, the high 90 to 94. On Friday, more clouds and sun with a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon, high 87 to 91. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We're saving thousands with Robert Palmer.
So rule number 1 is always shop around. Always shop around. If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get the best credit card, if you're looking at student loans, cell phone bills, you name it, rule number 1 is always shop around. Always shop around.
That's rule number 1, just one more vital part of fighting back to stop being a financial zombie. Yes, you can take the mystery out of the complicated world of finances. Take charge when it comes to your money. Listen in on The Source.
Are you looking for a durable farm fence to keep your horses enclosed, or a beautiful vinyl fence to give that finishing touch to your home? Seminole Fence has over 20 years of experience in providing quality fence products and services for farm and residential properties. Let them surround your property with a fence that provides privacy, security, and stunning appeal.
Ocala Aviation now has opportunities for flight instructors. Wait, hold on, Brad, is this correct? You're looking for instructors, not students?
Actually, we're looking for both.
Well, that's descriptive.
Well, I need flight instructors because we're now affiliated with a major university and can offer 4-year degrees. Plus, we're also approved to work directly with VA students.
Okay, so a degree in what, and what's a VA student?
Well, it's a bachelor's degree